Alright, like we said last time, we're going to build code for this button up here and also each one of these fields. Alright, we're going to start with the button. So let's go to the button and look at the code for the button. I've already brought up all of these. So button music location. Obviously we want a on mouse up function, and we're going to answer a file. And the message, when you do a file chooser, there's always a message at the top, and this is whatever we type here will show up there. Choose music location. All right. This sounds kind of odd, but we'll do it that way. Okay, if it is empty, then exit mouse up. So in other words, if I click the cancel button, I don't want to do anything. I just want to exit out at that point. But if by default, whenever you do a dialog box and the user puts an input in other words, type something into the dialog box and presses OK, or there's a bunch of different buttons to choose from, and he chooses something, it always puts the variable into, or not the variable, this is the variable. It puts the value of that into a variable called it. So if it is empty, if I click the cancel button, it is going to be empty. I'm going to exit out of mouse up. But if it is not empty, it actually has a file path. I want to answer it just to see what happens. All right, so let's go here and click the button. Brings up a file dialog chooser. And I messed up here. I am so sorry. We want this to be a folder. Yes, answer folder. Because we want to choose a folder, not a file. Because obviously we're not looking up one song here. We're looking up a whole database. Our main goal is to choose this file right here. That makes more sense. Or a folder, I'm sorry. So use the word folder there. Apologize about that. Alright, does the same thing. It brings this up. But now I can choose folders and I can't choose files. So let's go back to our music database and click. You see how it has put in music database. That's the folder name. And it says select folder or cancel. If I click cancel, it does nothing because I just exited out of mouse up. But if I go ahead and click on music database and say select folder, it went down here and answered it. And it is equal to the whole file path all the way to that folder with no trailing what's that, /. All right. So remember how that is laid out. It starts at this root drive, the C drive, and gives the path all the way to the folder you clicked on with no trailing thing. So basically I want to set the label of me to it. So I want to display that path right there. So let's do it again. Click music database, select folder, there it is. There's my music location, is that there. Alright, so and then we want to populate music. Now this is a function I'm going to build. I think I might have already built it, I'm not quite sure. But we're going to call this function. After I have set the label there, I'm going to call this function. And this function is going to be on the stack level. So I'm going to click on the stack and say code. Now I'm looking at the stack, and I already have it built. Populate music. So from this button, I'm going to be able to choose my music location, and then I'm going to set the label of it, set the label of me to the location. Then I'm going to populate music. Excuse me. And under populate music, it goes right here and it catches that message. It says put the label of button music location into base folder. So it's going to take this label and put it into this function. Now I'm going to set the default folder to base folder. Default folder. I'm setting the default folder. And what this is in Livecode is a variable, a global variable in Livecode that is set to empty when Livecode opens, but I can set it to something. And then I can use functions like the folders. So I'm going to put the folders into the artist. What it's going to do is go to that default folder, open it up, and read all the folder names in it. Not the file names, just the folder names. And that's exactly what we want in the artist. Now I have a list of artists. Now I'm going to comment this line out for just a moment. And then I'm going to put the artist into field artists right here. All right. So I'm going to go here, click music database and say select folder, and it ran this populate music. There we go. By the way, I also went into each one of these fields and looked at the inspector and clicked list behavior. That's something you need to do because if you don't do that, what you'll have is a cursor in here and you'll be able to retype things. Backspace them out and retype it. But I don't want that. I want to be able to select on lines. And that's done by setting that list behavior property. So go ahead and do that for all 3 of these fields. Now, you notice that it has the little dot, and by default, Windows sticks that in. And what that means is go up a directory, go back. And so, in other words, you're here, and you click this button and go back out of directory. But that doesn't make any sense here in this setting, so I'm going to get rid of that. And I'm going to use a filter function to do that. I'm going to filter out, I'm going to filter the lines of the artist without ... And so it's going to take that away. That's what that little line does. Let's go ahead and do this again. I click here and select folder, and it got rid of that line. So now all I have are my artists listed. The other thing I want to do is put empty into these 2. All right, so I want to say put empty into field albums, put empty into field songs. Good. So it's going to empty these 2 out because I just nailed down the database. I'm looking at artists. When I click here, then I want to populate albums. All right, so that's that. That's all we need to do for there. Let's go to artist and give it a on mouse up. Good. And that's exactly what you think when you mouse up. I want to know which line is highlighted. So I'm going to put the highlighted line of me into the selected line. I know highlighted is spelled funny, but that's how Livecode, that's how it recognizes it. Then I'm just going to answer too lazy to type. Answer the selected line, see what happens. I click there, it says 2. Click here, it says 1. So you see what it's doing. Put line, the selected line of me into the selected artist. Okay, so now we have the selected artist, and you can imagine if you answered it out, if you clicked here, it would say Doc Watson. If you clicked here, it would say Dora Lawson. All right, so now what we want to do is put the label of button music location, and now remember, it does not have a trailing forward slash, so I want to append a forward slash on it. And then I want to append that artist name, the selected artist, into the album path. All right, so let's answer the album path and just see what it did. When I click on Doc Watson, it gives me C drive all the way out to music database and then into Doc Watson. Gets me into this folder. Now I want to do pretty much the same thing. Let's go back to music player. I want to set the default folder to the folder we just created, and then I want to put the folders into the albums. So let's go ahead and set the default folder to the album path, put the folders into the albums. See if I can spell it right. Albums. Filter lines of the albums without dot dot, and then I want to put the albums into field albums. And I also want to put empty into field songs. So let's see what happens. If I click on Doc Watson, I get Best of Doc Watson. If I click on Doyle Lawson, I get the three, is that right? Yes, 3 different folders that are in Doyle Lawson. So if I go here and I say select music database, gives me the names of the artists. I click on artist, it gives me the albums. You can see what we're doing with this. Now let's go ahead and just copy all of this data, all of this code, and go over to albums and paste it there. Now I want to put the highlighted line of me into the selected line, obviously. I want to put the selected line of me into the selected album. All right, now we're just going deeper into the database here. So I want to take the label of music button. I want to put a /. Then instead of this, I want to put, and I guess put the highlighted line of, yes, field artists into the selected line, put line the selected line of field artist into the selected artist. Alright, so there we go. Let's put the selected artist there, and then we'll give it another /, and then we'll append on the selected album right there. And you know what I did wrong? The album, this should be the artist path. Artist path. And it doesn't matter. I mean, we'll just, but for sake of me down the road, that makes more sense to me now. So you see what we just did. We just, I named this albums, but it's really artist path. Now we get into albums, it is the album path. Okay, set the default folder to album path then. And then here, this is going to say the songs, right? Because now I have a list of songs. And here, this does not need to say folder, this needs to say files. I'm going to get rid of this filter line for now because it's going to be completely different. Put albums into field albums. I'm sorry. Put the song into field songs. And then I want to get rid of this line. Alright, so hopefully this makes sense. First I'm going to go ahead and get the artist that we have selected. It's already selected. I'm going to grab that, and then I'm going to get the highlighted line that I just clicked on in me. And then I'm going to put, I'm going to build that path to the album path. Set the default folder to that path. And then put the list of files. Now, you see how we're doing files instead of folders into a variable called the songs. And I'm going to put the songs into field songs. Now, there's going to be a problem, and I'll show you what it is here in just a second. If I click on He Lives in Me, there we go. I have all the songs. But you notice here I have more than just songs. I have album art, small.jpg. See, what happened is when I guess copied these songs off of the CD, I saved them onto the computer. I used, I think, Windows Media Player. It's a long time ago I did this, and it gives, it goes to the CD and it finds album art, it finds, I guess there's different information, metadata that it grabs from the CD and puts into this album. And Windows Media Player knows what to do with all these things. Well, I can't play a JPEG image. I can't play an INI file, or, it doesn't make any sense. So I don't want these to show up. I just don't want them. What I do want is any .wma files. If I go over here, that's WMA. If I go here, these are MP3. So I want two different types of files. I want WMA files and I want MP3 files. Everything else I want excluded. So what we're going to do is we're going to go down here, is we're going to do this filter thing. Filter lines, and this gets a little confusing here, lines of the songs with, not without, but with. And we're going to use a wildcard. A wildcard is an asterisk. Okay, and that means it can have anything before what I'm about to say, and then what I'm about to say. And because I'm doing two different choices, these need to be in brackets and then in quotes. The first one can be .mp3. Then I use a post. That is right above your return key, all the way over to the right, and you use the shift button. That button either has a backslash or a post. You want the post. And then the second choice is .wma. Okay, so a wildcard, and then either one of these two choices, .mp3 or .wma. And only the lines that have this in it will be left in the songs. So let's try this. Good, so I have only MP3s here. I have nothing else. Here I have only WMAs, nothing else. Here I have only WMAs, nothing else. Good, so that gets us, if I click here, I get the albums of that artist, the albums of this artist. If I click in here, I get the songs. I'm going to stop the video here. Next time we'll look at setting the music on this player and actually playing it.